Welcome to another edition of the Tiger Football Report. Spiro Maricas, along with the head coach of the Tigers, Rob Ambrose. And Coach, first of all, congratulations. I know Saturday at 4 p.m. when that ball went in the air, you were probably the happiest man in America.
I don't know. A lot of happy football players and a lot of happy football fans. If Saturday wasn't a semi-holiday for most of America, I really don't know what is. Like, looking forward to that for such a long period of time is a tremendous amount of gratitude. That's the best way I can describe it.
Well, for your team, and there are many times where you can say, hey, the offense bailed us out, or the defense bailed us out, or special teams bailed you out. This past Saturday was a complete team performance. I mean, you got it from the offensive side, the defensive side, and your special teams. I know you had to be pleased after having, 18 months off, that your first game back, you were a little rusty, but overall, a pretty good performance.
Agree. It's a really hard grader. And, the first goal is to win, period. Just find a way to win. But in the evaluation of all of it, to say that where we were in the first game, we were probably well ahead of where we've been in openers for a long time. And I just think it has to do with the focus. Like, when you've spent so many years taking for granted there's going to be more games when you're a young kid, how good is your focus? Really as good as your age. And having the game taken away from them, man, they just want one more rep. They just want more 6 seconds, one more chance to play. And they want to make the most out of it because they've just seen, you never know when it's going to get taken away again. So the focus was there. There's still rust. It's what happens when you don't play the game for 2 years. But for where we are now, I couldn't be more pleased. But last week's gone and there's a new test ahead.
There certainly is. Before we get to that new test, let's talk a little about the old one, and that is, Chris Ferguson, his first start in a long time, and his first pass was not a good one. Probably should have been picked off. But from there on out, he played a pretty steady football game.
He did. Hey, the goal as a quarterback, first thing before you can ever think about winning, you got to be the reason we don't lose. And for a guy who's only been around for a couple months, he managed the offense well. He ran those guys pretty well. He led them, and he recovered from his own mistakes. So, it wasn't a perfect performance by any means, but it was a solid performance and a good one to be had.
On the defensive side, what really was impressive to me was your secondary. Mark Collins with a couple of beautiful breakups. One I know he wanted to take all the way to the house, but unfortunately hang on. S.J. Brown played a great game for you from the safety position. And they had nobody to throw to. And Wolfolk, who was a really good wide receiver, he was shut out for almost the entire ball game. So I think you had to be pleased with your secondary.
Oh, sure. And, let's put it this way, that not a lot of good throws being made when the behemoths are breathing on you. And the pass rush was pretty impressive. Seriously, running around to throw it. Mark played, and they did it because they were fresh. Like, I looked at Sam Jennings in the fourth quarter. I go, Sam, did you even play today? And I looked at his rep. He only had 19 reps, 20 reps in a game. But because we just keep rolling guys in, and they're all fresh. And when they wanted to throw, we were teed off at him. Mark played the most reps at 50 reps on defense, and I thought that was pretty. I didn't even know we did that. But very pleased with his play, very pleased with the whole back end. And if it was a pass game, they were on point. If it was a run game, they stayed true to their keys, and they were downhill tackling. Nobody was an all-star. There wasn't, because there was too much good team defense. Everybody just did their job, and it works out in the end. First, all this, first shutout in how long?
Since 2017 against.
Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, it's good. It's your third shutout. You also had one against Delaware. 2000.
I remember the Delaware one. What's the third one?
19, twice against Morgan and.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
You just shut out Morgan this week.
Yeah, I got that part.
Okay. All right. Now, you mentioned All-Stars. Well, this Saturday, you're heading up to New Hampshire, jump right into CAA play in week number 2. And they had a guy who was the CAA Defensive Player of the Week in Pop Bush. He had 10 tackles. He had an interception. He returned 65 yards. He had a couple of pass breakups. He had 3 tackles for losses. What makes this kid special?
He knows their scheme. He's an incredibly heady player. Like, he studies his opponent to understand this circumstance, this formation, this side of the field, this is going to happen. or at least boils it down to three things so he doesn't have to think, he just react. And he's a heck of an athlete. He is. He's a strong, fast guy. He leads. He truly does, and he leads. The benefit that he gets is the same thing that what you're saying about Mark. They have two of the best interior linemen in the league. Those guys are all-star studs, and that puts a lot of pressure on any front, any quarterback, and therefore helps the DBs out. But no, this kid's special. He really is. There's a reason he is an All-American. Everybody loves him, and he's earned it.
Now, is he someone that Chris Ferguson, when he gets to the line of scrimmage, is going to have to look around and say, all right, where's Bush?
No, their scheme is their scheme. He just fits into the spot. And they've always put a guy, one of those guys like that, and one of them that's a backer, that those are the dudes that are making all the plays. That's how their scheme works. They put their best player in those spots. So the scheme fits him in run and pass. It's not somebody we have to game plan for. I actually had a game plan for the interior lineman a little bit more, but we'll know where he is.
Now, offensively, they lose their starting quarterback before the season begins, and now they throw in a kid who had barely played, Brett Edwards, and against Stony Brook, he threw for 233 yards and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. That's pretty good for a guy that wasn't supposed to be your starting quarterback 2 weeks ago.
True, but he was supposed to be the starting quarterback at some point. And he has played before. So, I mean, it's not like this kid's completely worthless. He's a really good football player. He was just behind a better football player. And that's, testament to recruiting, testament to their coaching. I'd be hard-pressed to say we're ever going to go to New Hampshire and face a bad quarterback. As a matter of fact, there have been times when we had to face 2 good ones at the same time. So just another trip to New Hampshire. And
their head coach is back, Sean McDonald, who was out for a year with cancer. And I know you'll be happy to see him on the sideline and say hello before the ball game.
I will. He's a little bit of a mentor. He's someone that we all look up to in this league. He's seen it all. I mean, he was back here when they used to call it the Yankee Conference. He's been through every iteration of what CAA football is. The day he stops coaching is the day he goes to the Hall of Fame. And it's pretty nice to be able to work with and against somebody of that stature that I can learn from.
Now, you've had some success up at New Hampshire. Success that didn't get you where you wanted to be. I can remember back in 2012. But, tough place to play. And your players, I'm sure, realize that, yes, this is the next game, but it does have a little extra meaning because, yes, this is your first conference game.
Conference games always mean a little bit something. No matter what happens at a conference, if you sweep all your conference opponents, you're making a run at the national championship, and that's everybody's goal. So beating good football teams is what gets you prepared. Playing good football teams, beating good football teams is what gets you prepared for that kind of thing. That's how you win a conference title, and that's how you make a run. So that's the bigger picture. The short version is there's somebody else that's going to line up against us for the next 6 seconds. And we're going to do everything we can do to beat them. And we're going to keep doing it until they tell us we can't play football anymore.
Well, they're going to let you play this week. And your players in practice so far this week, any difference in mood? Now that you've got a game under your belt and you've got a victory, maybe a little more swagger in their step?
Nah, a little more soreness. There is no substitute for playing football, especially against an opponent, to gain a victory. It is not a scrimmage for fun. It is not a private workout. It's not a training session. It's not 7-on-7. It's real 11-on-11 football. And there is no substitute for the stress of your body, your heart, and your soul that you can make the same congruent than there is the actual game. So we came out of it very healthy, but sore, learning how to go through a week of being sore from the previous game so you can build towards the next game. But that's nothing new. The energy stays the same because we're just going to go play football. Nothing's different than last week, really. We're just going to go play football.
All right, Coach, we'll talk to you next week, hopefully 2-0, and looking forward to a rematch against the team we played 7 years ago.
I forgot about that. I was just worried about the next 6 seconds. Thanks, Spiro.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Rob. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Tiger Football Report. Have a good week, folks.